Hello, this is Michael Eure, and I'd like to invite you to the Michael Eure Show, featuring student hosts and very special guests talking about a variety of interesting topics. You can find us on the Eagle Stream YouTube channel. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Michael Eure Show. Hello, this is Today, Michael Eure, echo. To invite you to the Michael Eure Show. Today we have some very special guests, Jose Fabre, Richard Redding, and Akeem McAllister. So we're going to start by just asking each of them to give you a brief 1 minute or less. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And we'll start with you, Jose.
Perfect. Well, hello. Thank you so much, Michael, for inviting me. It is definitely an honor to be with all of you guys here. Really, I'm speaking about this topic. So for everybody that doesn't know me, my name is Jose Fabre Jr. As you can see, I was born in the Bronx, New York, but raised in half of my lifetime in the Dominican Republic and the other half in Perth Amboy, New Jersey, a little small town in New Jersey. I come from a Hispanic background, so my family is actually Dominican. That's why I left to the Dominican Republic for half of my life. And then I came to North Carolina, and I've loved it so far. I've stayed here, and I don't see myself moving from here in a long time. So yeah, that's who I am. I work for Wake Tech recruitment team and admissions. So I do recruiting and I work for admissions as well. So like I said, thank you so much for having me here, Michael. It is an honor.
Akeem?
All right, hello. I am a North Carolina native, born and raised, around North Carolina. I am a proud product of Elizabeth City State University, and I've gotten the opportunity to go to grad school at another HBCU in the state of North Carolina. And from that, I got the opportunity to also start working at some community colleges in North Carolina, Wake Tech being one of those. And that's where I got the opportunity to meet Mr. Michael Eure, and I am thankful to be here today.
We didn't save the best for last, but how about Richard? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, how you doing? Everybody out there. My name is Richard Redding. Once again, thanks so much for inviting me to this interesting topic to speak on. Once again, Richard Redding. I am a Florida native. Made my way here to North Carolina via through Atlanta, Georgia. But I am a graduate, proud HBCU graduate of Florida A&M University. I got my bachelor's degree, and I have a master's degree in conflict management from Kennesaw State University out of Atlanta, in the Atlanta area. I'm also a licensed minister, but the one thing to know about me is I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a son, and I'm a grandfather. That's kind of encompasses who I am. My wife used to call me the community husband, so I do engage myself in the community. Right now, I've been a higher ed for probably 10 years in education, almost 20 plus years. And currently I'm the success coach for the Pathways Minority Male Initiative program here at Wake Tech. Thanks for having me.
We have to get the hang of that. I'm so sorry. And audience, if you at any point have any questions or comments, you can put them in the chat. So we're playing musical chairs, and the first person to get a question is Akeem McAllister, who was a student at Elizabeth City State, as he mentioned. Tell us, what was it like to attend that HBCU? And tell us about your opportunity to participate in a study abroad program at South Africa through Elizabeth City State.
Okay. So for me, it was definitely something, new. I did not have any idea, honestly, probably going into high school, what an HBCU was. Until I started to learn more about colleges, and I started to see the college fairs, and someday in one way I ran into Elizabeth City, and from that time I applied and got in. I thought it was the greatest thing on earth. It was something different. As you all can see, some of the photos that I shared with you all, I was pretty active on campus, and they gave us the opportunity while I was there to actually do just about anything that was, I think, ethical as far as like programs. I got a chance to start my own club and organization, was the president of that. And then the opportunity to go to South Africa in my science department. I am a biologist by trade, I guess you would say, in education. We got the opportunity, all expenses paid. Another photo, I was also an RA. I got the opportunity to partly pay for college as well, being an RA after freshman year until graduation. But going to South Africa, I got the opportunity to also do research there. As I mentioned, it was all expenses paid, and it was through the NIH. And one of my instructors, who also happened to be the department chair, he kind of encouraged, everyone, like, apply. He mainly took students from Elizabeth City, and he was an African native, but he just so happened to be working at Elizabeth City. And he actually took other students from other HBCUs as well. So it wasn't just us. So we got a chance to work with students from Elizabeth City and other students from stateside. And then once we got over there, we got opportunities to do research and work with the faculty there. That was, again, phenomenal, because I've never been on a plane before then. I had to get, of course, my passport. And again, all expenses paid. So as a student, I was excited, and just eyes just wide open, just to be excited to do all these things. So it was all fun. I learned a lot and met a lot of great people, and I'm still meeting great people and keeping in contact with some of those great people from that experience from Elizabeth City.
All right. And thank you. And I did get an opportunity to go with Akeem and the Elizabeth City State University alumni, and they co-sponsored with ACA a trip to their winter homecoming in February. So we made it before the pandemic, and we had a great time. And I even have your banner in my background. So the next question is going to go to Jose. And Jose was the student government president at Wake Tech. He was an outstanding representative and served on the board of trustees. And I really enjoyed every moment of working with him and brainstorming. So tell us a little bit about that experience, but then I want you to talk about the trip you took to Mexico and what that was all about and what you accomplished.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for the words, Michael. Yeah, like he mentioned, I was the student body president. So usually a student does one term, which is a year, 2 semesters. But I had the opportunity of doing it twice. So I actually did 2 years. So I did 2 terms. And it was honestly just life-changing. The whole team was like almost 40 students. So it was very active. We had executive board, which you have the president, the vice president, secretary, treasurer, and public information officers. And then we have the senators. And so it was really, really a life-changing experience. Because of that experience, I was able to, meet many people, have a lot of connections. As Michael mentioned, I was actually part of the board of trustees because I was the student body president. So I was able to meet just tremendous people that really do a lot of things for the community here at North Carolina as a whole, and even, the United States. Like, we have tremendous people on our team, and I was able to meet all of them. And because of that, also, I was invited to participate in an organization. Well, not an organization, but it was like an initiative, I would say, right? And it was called the Latino Initiative. And it was something done by a company called Go Global NC in the North Carolina Community College system office. And so they gathered many leaders across North Carolina, so not just Wake County, but across North Carolina. And then they took us to Mexico with the purpose of opening our eyes on how Mexico does things for their community, and how we could implement some of those things here in North Carolina in order to, help the Latino Hispanic community. So as you can see, that's me in Museo Casa Estudio de Diego Rivera, which is Diego Rivera's studio. So Diego Rivera is a very known artist, painter, muralist from Mexico, and we were able to see his studio. He was the husband of Frida Kahlo, which I don't know if you've heard of. But it was just life changing. I went there just like Akeem, so I know the feeling, of being able to participate in a trip, and it was just life changing. We went to automotive industries, but we also went to rural areas in Mexico. So we were able to get just different perspectives. We went to colleges and universities in Mexico, and the whole plan was to come back and now we talk about future initiatives together. Um, you can see that was at a rural area. It's called Tareta in Guanajuato, Mexico. Fell in love with that little girl. She was amazing, very sweet. And yeah, so we came back, and it was the whole point was to now implement a plan. Not all of us together, but instead everybody at their field and areas. And so my job was to come back to Wake Tech and implement something. And so what we did is we met and we created something student-based called the Latino Initiative Committee at Wake Tech. And so it was 5 of us in total. 4 of us were Hispanic. Another one was not Hispanic. And then we said, how could we better the community here at, Wake County? And so we saw that the majority of dropouts from high school were actually Hispanics. And so we said, well, we definitely got to just work with the Hispanic community at high schools. And so we created an event that's going to happen every year. Last year, it couldn't happen because of COVID. So this year, we might plan something, virtually. But that's how everything happened. Michael, thank you so much for asking.
All right, thank you, Jose. And Richard, I know that we are going to give you a little something different because you're coming from the highest of 7 hills in Tallahassee
Yes, sir.
on the campus of FAMU. So tell us a little bit about your experiences there. That's a rather large HBCU, very well known for their business, engineering, and of course, agriculture and football and marching band. So tell us what that experience was like, because sometimes when we think of African Americans or Black people, we think of them as being monolithic. But what was your experiences in terms of working with different types of people of color on that campus?
I'll say thanks for asking. I'd say initially for me, I've known about FAMU pretty much growing up. My parents went to HBCU's, Edward Waters College in Jacksonville. We had frequented going to Florida A&M to the games, things like that. However, I graduated from a predominantly white high school. There were a handful of us in some of the classes, and we thought we were, I would say a handful of us, I mean, they have African American students. So we thought we were pretty smart for the most part. However, when I got to Florida A&M, it was literally culture shock for me. Even though I visited the campus, once I got there and got integrated in the campus and realized, wow, this is amazing. I was no longer the quote unquote smartest Black guy on campus anymore. I was now like the bottom ring of students because of the creativity, the talent, and the intellectual students that were at FAMU. I was fortunate enough to meet some great people there, and they became family. It was like you would go to a class, and if you're not doing well in the class, and this person would they literally call you out and say, they'll make me call your mom. I'm like, you don't even know my mom, but they're like, you'd be surprised. They don't know your mom, but that's the kind of care I think we experienced in the classroom with the faculty there and the administration there. So, and it gave me a chance to, I would say, work with where I came from and brought what I came from in a predominantly white high school coming to African American HBCU college. It gave me a chance to kind of integrate, move in and out. I guess before code switching was popular, we would code switch at the time, but it was just really I learned so much and formed myself at Florida A&M University. It gave me a perspective from my rearview mirror and looking forward. It gave me a chance to grow, as I'm sure as all colleges do for people, but this was just a different experience that it gave me a chance to grow and know who I am and be proud of who I am and just walk through all walks of student life uh, with African American males, females, also the diaspora itself, of international students that were of African descent as well. So just to get a chance to move in and out of those spaces and places, and it was really, really a great opportunity for me. I will never, ever, ever forget it, and I still don't to this day, because it is a place. Those places in the height of Seven Hills will always be in my heart.
Yes, sir. We've heard all about it, and I've never went to that campus, but I always wanted to visit. But not for homecoming; it's too busy out here. But Akeem, you're going to get a double question, sorta, and we're taking you back to South Africa. And
Okay.
tell us a little bit about your experiences, because apartheid was there. When you were there, how was the relationships between the Afrikaans, or the Africans, the South African uh, natives, and I guess that even Caucasians are native if they've been living there for 100 years. But how was those interactions, and how was your interaction with your researchers? Did you find it similar to the United States or very different?
So one thing that stood out to me, one thing I remember to this day, so in America, so we went there to do research, science research. And in America, like, you see sciences, you think of like these white coats, at least in America. And it's like, oh, these pristine white coats have your name on it, maybe your company where you work at, and it's always clean. So when I got there, it's something that was different is you would see these white coats that you would think like, oh, these things need to go to the cleaners, or why are these coats so clean? And funny enough, just before we went over there, we got these white coats with our name on it in the program. So we learned that from the natives, that your coat with all your stains on it from whatever you were doing shows that you were putting in work in the lab. So for us to come over there with these clean white coats, like, oh, y'all did nothing. Y'all just got here, y'all doing nothing. But there's some things I guess you could say, as far as the relationship, I will say Americans, African Americans, and Africans that are native to Africa, it's, I don't want to say it's a tension, but there is this belief that, of course, or at least I heard it there, that we kind of squander away our good fortune, or we're not as hardworking as they would believe we are, or they just don't see the hard work. And then, you kind of have to understand and see where they're coming from and the types of situations that they're in and they're living in. Because again, as I said, we went there on a national grant from the NIH, and I didn't have to worry about money, I didn't have to worry about things, but we were working with one student, and we also got like a stipend every week, but we were working with one student who, like at one point, we'll go to lunch, everybody's like 12 o'clock is time for lunch, at least in America we go to lunch. She wouldn't go to lunch, or she wouldn't leave, and like we just found out, like, she was like struggling to pay for a banana, So we all Americans, we all kind of gathered together, at least the people that work with her, we just like gave her money and brought her food. And she was just so thankful for that generosity. But it's things that we take for granted here that we just don't, see. But I also realized that wasn't the same thing or the same story for everybody, from what we see. Because also the other thing is that I realized once I was there was, we are sometimes painted this picture in America of what it looks like over there, and it's not always the case. Because I did go to a mall that will probably rival some of our malls here, and I was like, oh, this looks really, really nice. And the relationship, again, I think mainly for people in general, you kind of had to just get to know people. I think a lot of people were just, I don't, especially with the researchers, they knew what we were there for, but the people outside of those researchers, they could tell that we were not from there, based on how we would look or how we would act and stuff like that. So it's more so people were, hesitant. You know, I think that just goes about anybody. You want to get to know people and get to know what they're about, and if they're really there to help you or harm you.
Thank you, Akeem.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're back to Jose, and we're going to take you back to your days as a student leader. And you were a student leader, not just popped up as student government president, but you were the president of the Spanish Honor Society, and you were involved with the International Student Association. Tell us, being a student leader and working at a school like Wake Tech, which is so very diverse, and the #1 online community college in the United States, I must say. So we're doing these things virtually. What was your greatest challenge and your greatest rewarding accomplishment working with so many different ethnic groups?
Definitely. Well, for me, honestly, my biggest challenge was my personal life. I know that I went through things that maybe a lot of students didn't have to go through. And a lot of that has to do with my background, just where I come from, just being realistic. You know, I had to struggle with many different things, such as hunger. You know, I had to struggle with that. I had to struggle with poverty, right? I had to struggle with evictions from multiple parts of my family. And so those are things that, if you think about it, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like you need to feel secure, you need to feel that security in order for you to be successful. And so for me, it was very hard to do those things. I mean, I was able to, like you said, become a leader and fight really hard for the things I wanted. But I just think that many people didn't have to go through, and so they don't take advantage of the opportunities that they have. And I was like, you know what, I'm definitely just going to use all of the resources that are provided to me, and I'm definitely going to take advantage of. So at Wake Tech, there's many resources that I was able to use, in order to fight those things, to fight hunger, to fight, poverty, to help my mom with her evictions and just, stuff like that. And so it was life-changing, and that's what I was able to see, Michael. At Wake Tech, we have diversity, and we really do help, people from different backgrounds, and that's really helpful. So that's the story, Mr. Michael.
Well, no, thank you for that testimony. And we were just in a meeting earlier today about those very services that we provide. But Richard, now that we're going to pivot to you, we're going to talk about, or we want you to talk about your experiences after leaving FAMU and working with student services in various institutions. Tell us what that was like, and was it different working with different ethnic groups of students and also with staff?
Definitely. I'll say this, when going back to FAMU just a little bit, one thing I think was imparted into us at FAMU is that once you have your education from FAMU, you are held accountable to yourself and to those who came before you. You're responsible to take advantage of the opportunity that you were given to have get your education there. So that led me into education. I've been in education almost 20 years or so, and I've believe it or not, I've gone literally from preschool, working in preschool, all the way to post-secondary education. I've worked in those fields. So what I've learned in that process is important to not just know your student, but know your student's family background. What I mean by that, not necessarily individually, but knowing enough about them in the community, knowing about the resources in the community. And I want to show my age here real quick. Not just resources that are in the yellow pages. Do they still have yellow pages? I'm not sure or not. But resources that are in the yellow pages, but those community resources, who to reach out to, who to make sure that we can hold as a community, as a group, hold these students accountable to where they need to be, or help them, not accountable, help them get to where they need to be in their journey. Great opportunity because of the wealth of number of people I work with, from families to staff, the diversity of it. Majority of the time working in the preschool, middle school, high school level, I worked with students that were from minority communities that were not I don't want to call it, they weren't impoverished in comparison probably to what Jose and Akeem were able to go through. But, you know, in America, as impoverished they came from poor communities with poor systems of education, poor systems of health and accessible health care, things like that. So using those experiences and working with them, trying to navigate in between what a student needs and what society requires of that student has been really my job to do that. And I do that through making connections no matter what the ethnicity of the person I'm working with, whether it's in higher education or a resource that's on the ground. The bottom line was to be able to move in and out of those spaces and places to help the students reach their goal and have a support system that does that and build that community that's really needed for those students to be successful.
Y'all got such great information. And as you know, getting the different perspectives are good, and we're going to probably have to do a part 2 of this sometime next semester. So, Akeem, what type of activities are you currently involved with and to foster opportunities for African American and other men of color through your alumni association or possibly in community settings?
So definitely right now it's kind of challenging to do really much anything. But what I've done recently, I know there is I believe he's an instructor and an administrator there, Carlos McCormick, also another Viking that works at Wake Tech. He told me about the National Council of Black American Affairs. I got into that recently. I joined. A shameless plug, if anybody's watching or interested, please join that organization. But I attended one of their virtual meetings. I went through, their website and learned more before I actually took that leap. And dues are pretty cheap. But I joined that organization. They are doing some phenomenal things in the community. I believe their network is full of the community college system. And it's to me, their work has, from what they've done so far, seems very interesting and very, very worthwhile as far as getting involved with. The other thing that I have been working on or have been trying to work on and work with, because again, it's very challenging to do anything whenever you have to keep your distance and you can't get in large crowds. The community college I'm working at now, they're also trying to work on reviving their Pathways program. So I know the Minority Male Success Initiative is a statewide initiative for the program. So I got an opportunity to work with Mr. Kinsey, another great person I met while I was at Wake Tech. And I love that program. I love what it does and what it's about. So I have some of my own ideas. I talked to Mr. Kinsey, and, just trying to bounce some ideas off him, but just working with the people that are at the school that I work at now, and the men that are there that are working on reviving that program, just trying to work with them and talk to them through that as well. So those are the main 2 things. In my alumni association, they have done, I think, quite a bit in the community. May not have been just male-centered or minority male-centered. I know there's another great Viking, again, in the Raleigh area, Pastor Sean Singleton, Dr. Sean Singleton, who can't think of the church name, but they do food drives.
Is it Martin Street?
Martin Street. I was going to say another church, but they do food drives, and I got an opportunity to volunteer, and it's every second Saturday, a few times here and there. It's become a little bit challenging with me moving, but they do, food drives. I think that's awesome because during this time, it's not just COVID. There's a lot of, lost wages and people can't make ends meet, and even with government assistance, sometimes it's still not enough. And then the holidays are coming around. So I've done that, you know. And again, if you're in the Raleigh area, you want to get involved, please try to do that as well. Another shameless plug, but those are some of the things that I try to stay connected to.
We're running out of time. Thank you. But Jose and Richard, you can answer this when he gets through. The same question. What would be one or two things you would like to happen locally, nationally, and globally to create more communication and appreciation for the many ethnic groups that are part of society? I know that's a lot.
You could go ahead, Richard.
Okay, no problem. You know, great question. I thought, and it's interesting that I thought about this with Akeem going to South Africa. In my studies as for conflict management, one of the studies I looked at was Truth and Reconciliation Commission that South Africa had, led by Bishop Tutu and Nelson Mandela. And I look at what's going on globally as well as what's going on locally here. And one of the things I think America has missed on is the opportunity for Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Does it hold, are there penalties? Is there repercussions for anything that goes on? Not necessarily, but it does allow people to come to the table and tell the truth. We've had the closest one we've had here in this area is one in Greensboro that dealt with the murder of African Americans at a Klan rally. But I think we've missed the boat where other countries, I think it's almost 46 truth and reconciliation commissions across the world. And America has kind of said, we're not going to acknowledge that how, you know, we think we're doing okay, but there are some truths that need to be shared and told by people that, you know, that look like us, they're ambassadors. They may not carry the title of ambassadors, but they're ambassadors for the cause that they have in their communities. Once again, great question. Shameless plug. Thanks for Akeem for talking about the Pathways program. We're glad you talked about that and how we can assist our students on a daily basis. So I want to just use that one. Now, shameless plug my fraternity as well, which came from family as well as Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, always out there engaging the community, serving the community and culture for service and service for humanity. Got a shameless plug.
All right. So now we're going to go with Jose. But before we do that, we have a question for you. Jose, did you service as SGA president? Did your service as SGA president inform the work that you do now? Or did it align with any plans for civic engagement you already had?
Yeah, that's a great question. So because I was a student body president, you know, I was able to get, you know, different perspective as far as like, you know, the things that we are currently working at, you know, Wake Tech in order to better the you know, minority community. And I was able to, you know, provide a better understanding of, you know, what the needs are as far as students. And so I think it definitely informed me of what my job is now, you know, which I work very closely with the Hispanic community as far as like recruiting and outreach and admission. So perhaps whenever we do presentations, you know, we work very closely with companies, with organizations such as Juntos and Unidos. And so whenever we do a presentation for one of their events, you know, I always show up and they say, you know, if you have any questions in Spanish that you would like to ask Jose, you could ask it now. And I've even done presentations in Spanish before, which was something that we needed. And so it definitely did inform me of what the needs were. So it helped out to be student body president to get a different perspective. Thank you for asking, Ben.
I also would add that Jose is a entertainer. I wanted to say, and I'm gonna stop with this meeting. Jose is also an excellent entertainment, and the first time I saw him, he actually was performing at the International Festival with this young African American student, and I think you were rapping in Spanish, and he was rapping in English. But that was a great.
Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, we were rapping. So I used to rap before, you know, and we collaborated. His name is, I call him Michael, but his name is really Joel Griffin, good friend of mine. And so, yeah, we did something together for the International Friends Club. So that's something that I've learned here at Wake Tech, you know, is to actually collaborate. So it's about bringing everybody, you know, together and working as one. Michael.
Thank you. And I'm going to try to make sure that we follow up and connect, because as an impact coach, I do work with Hispanic students, Black students, Caucasian students.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that communicating and doing things using the cultural platforms. And I'm going to use this opportunity to announce that this weekend, the North Carolina Museum of History will be having a virtual American Indian celebration. I think this is their 20th or 21st, but you can look up North Carolina Museum of History and find out when that is. It might be a good event for your family to visit virtually. And then in the last Saturday in January, of course, is the African American Cultural Celebration at the museum. And Jose came, and Wake Tech had a booth, and he was at the booth. We just had some good opportunities connecting the college to the community with student leaders like you. So now we're winding it down. I'll give each of you about a minute, 30 seconds to have your closing statements. Thank you.
All right. So I didn't get to answer the question, so I'll do that as my closing statement. So what should we implement, nationally, internationally, and globally, in order to work better with ethnicity? So one thing that I said, Michael, is that I've noticed how I had to struggle with many things that other people didn't have to struggle with. So I guess just bringing awareness of how just life works here at the United States nationally, right, would help out. For example, one thing that I didn't know when I was younger was about credit. What was credit? Like, I had no idea. What is this credit thing, and how can I use that? And so I grew up, when I was younger, open up credit cards, didn't use it correctly, and so that has been following me, for the previous years. I was able to fix it, but I had to educate myself, on those things. So for example, having that as a free resource, like education, as far as like credit and money management, right? Those are things that are essential in life, and we shouldn't have to pay for those things, so having those things as a resource, I think would better our communities, because those are things that if we had it as a resource, we would educate ourselves at a young age, and that would help out the community. So thank you so much for having me, Michael, and I really do hope to have a second round and talk more broadly as far as like solutions.
Definitely. And I think a question for Akeem. Is there a question in the chat? Akeem, will you please share the national organization you recently joined? I think this is a great opportunity to make further connections. From Laura Bethay, our Career and Employment Resources Office.
Yes. So again, that organization is called the National Council of Black American Affairs. There is a website that you all can go to. So there's a national website, which is ncbaa-national.org. And then the local website, like I said, I learned this information from an employee that currently works at Wake Tech, Dr. Carlos McCormick. And that website is just North Carolina, ncbaa.wordpress.com. Both of those, they share like a plethora of information about the mission. They have like lots and lots of great opportunities for y'all. Like I said, I do know that they are working on doing some more virtual events. And again, it's like I said, right now it's very challenging with the restrictions with how many people could be in what place and how big the place have to be. I think this is probably a great opportunity for me to go ahead and put my closing statement in there as well. I'll say, Jose, I think you had like a great answer. And Richard, I enjoyed this talk with both of you all and all of you. But I wanted to also kind of add on to what Richard was saying with reconciliation. One thing that happened just this week, I don't know if you all got a chance. I wanted to like bring it up. I want to say it was the AMA. I wrote it down somewhere. I had notes. But I think the AMA, which is the American Medical Association, just this week, they just recognized that racism is a health threat, or it's a threat to health. I can't think of wish I had like the link for all the information, but if you look at recent policies. So for the AMA to kind of recognize that, they had there's a nice podcast about it that talks about it. But one thing that you're kind of saying, Richard, and that's true, like there hasn't been any reconciliation. There has not, we haven't really recognized that it's an issue, or, the impact that this has had. And, if anybody knows me, I'm into like science, health sciences and stuff like that. There was also something recently happened with the AMA. They just renamed an award. It was named after a famous doctor, but he, just history about this guy. Can't remember his name, but we could go find it out. But I just know that his history was he had to do like this research on medical schools at the time. I think it was like probably in the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, and his research basically showed that, we need to close some of these Black medical schools. Closing those Black medical schools is, seen, the effects are seen to this day with the health that we are experiencing. They said that by record, we probably could have had 25 to 35,000 Black doctors if those medical schools were not closed. So, one thing, like you said, like we just have not recognized the impact that, either racism or the lack thereof of opportunities that a lot of races could have, equally is having on us today. But one thing is that we haven't recognized it as a society, and we haven't been able to fix it and go forward from that situation. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff that's, steadily coming out, and, we're learning more. And even, for example, we don't have to look too far past this current pandemic that we're in. Look who's disproportionately affected, and, why are people disproportionately affected? So I think more so we just need to recognize it first, and not just people of color, everybody needs to recognize it, and then we can go and actually start talking about actionable steps and actionable plans that we can actually do. Because recognizing it is one thing, but then we also have to say, what are we going to do after that? We know it's a problem. Now we need to go fix it. So those are just some of my few ideas. Thank you again for having me on the show.
And you give me a segment for our next show. For the first Thursday in December, we have Renee Daughtry from Cisco Systems, and he's going to be talking about the fourth industrial revolution. He's an engineer. He also owns a company called Asymmetry, and he's very much involved with some things at different schools, including Wake Tech, but North Carolina Central, A&T, I want to say East Carolina, but he helped set up Cisco academies at these schools. But he is going to talk about opportunities in technology. And when I first met him, I worked at another school, and I happened to go to Rocky Mount, and he was digitizing medical records. And that was a while ago. And now you see telemedicine. This was the forefront of all those things. So Renee Daughtry, the first Thursday in December from 12 to 12:30 on the Michael Eure Show. And if I don't have any more questions, I'm going to have to say it was a pleasure having you, and I'm going to have y'all back. Don't think I won't. You'll be back next semester. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. Me talk with everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.